For the first half of this video, I'm going to give you what you want to hear and talk about the roadmap. And then in the other half, I'm going to talk about what you actually need to hear and what people aren't telling you. Cyber is very vast, so you're going to pick a field that is a bit easier to get into. These are usually analyst positions, GRC, vulnerability, and networking. You're not going to get any cert or certification that I have not mentioned. If you're an absolute beginner and you don't know the absolute basics of computers and networks and whatnot, you should definitely learn those, mostly with Google and ChatGPT. Do not pay for useless courses. If you're a complete beginner and you don't know anything about computers, stop watching cybersecurity videos. Try to learn to program for the first time. Try to understand networking concepts, and you're going to find out very quickly if you're passionate about it or not. And if you're not, then just drop it immediately. Once you already know those things, start getting ready for your Security Plus. You can use the Professor Messer playlist, you can use ChatGPT, whatever you want. Let's take a look at blue teaming, because I don't want to get into every single field. So I can just give you a general understanding of how to get into a field, and then you can just apply the same principle to the other fields if you want to get into them. But since most people are going to get into SOC analyst, let's talk about the blue team / analyst positions. So to get into those, you're going to want to get your Security Plus and then move into a more advanced certification like the CYSA or one of these. Afterwards, you want to do a bunch of practical projects that are relevant to what you're going to use. As an analyst, you're mostly going to use a CM. You're going to build your own CM. You're going to learn to optimize alert filtering. You're going to understand how they actually work. Then you're going to do some practical lab exercises in which you use some sort of budget CM, which kind of tries to simulate the real world. The problem with these is that they're pretty much just like budget simulations, and it's not like you can just finish them and then you're ready to work in your first day at a company. You're just ready to get straight to work because you're not going to know a lot of stuff that you need to know. And the companies also know this, so they don't really value them as much as practical experience. Then you're going to want to learn a bunch of filtering languages. Then you're going to learn Python, PowerShell, and Bash. For Python, you're mostly going to learn threading, web requests, and basic syntax. AnyRun is a great tool. It's free. People often use it so that they can check out malware in sandbox environments. All you have to do is just open the site, and then you can go into public submissions, and you have all of these virus submissions, and you can just rerun them, and you can understand how it affects the system and start learning to actually analyze malware. And then that will also teach you how to spot a virus from a false positive. And then also stalk every feed that you can that talks about the most recent cyber attacks, that breaks down exactly what tech and malware they used, so you can keep up to date with trends and actually understand what the current scene looks like. These things will generally just make you very employable because you're going to have a lot of actual useful knowledge and you're not just farming the bare minimum. If you want to get into pen testing, you can either do the SOC path and then get into pen testing, or you can just have a normal full-time job that has nothing to do with cybersecurity and then follow this roadmap until you become extremely skilled and then look for a job as a junior pen tester. At that point, you'll easily be able to get a cert like OSCP or even something more advanced. Afterwards, you can look for any sort of real-world practical experience. For all the things I just mentioned, I want you to put in a lot of effort and actually learn when it comes to the practical projects and not just do them for the sake of having them on your CV. At this stage, you're probably going to want to get some practical experience. For this, you can look for internships or volunteering or just outright go for a job. But keep in mind, this process might take a while. While you're looking for a job, constantly be on the lookout to improve your skills, go out, network, go to cybersecurity conferences and events, meet like-minded people, and overall get a better social circle that will help you grow your career. And not just for the sake of your career, just in general, being in a community that supports you and that has the same interests as you. Speaking of community, we have a lot of free cool resources and nice people on my Discord if you want to join that one. On top of all of those previous things, having a good CV and all of this relevant knowledge is going to get you pretty far up there. Another important thing is to be able to answer all of the interview questions and actually understand what you're talking about. A good way to see your weaknesses is to just try to fluently talk about any cybersecurity principle and see if you can actually properly explain it in depth. Because let's say a lot of you might have heard of something like privilege escalation. And, conceptually it's pretty easy. You just escalate your privilege in a machine, you get higher level access, sure. But are you actually able to give 2 or 3 examples, like concrete real world examples of what methods are used for privilege escalation? If somebody gives you a hypothetical environment of how you hacked into a machine and asks you how you would escalate your privilege, would you tell them specifically what actual method on that machine you would use to gain privilege escalation? Or would you only be able to say, I don't know, I just look for a way to escalate my privilege? Because that's not very useful. Another thing is learn PowerShell and Bash, and when it comes to PowerShell, understand malware techniques with PowerShell, because the most common combo of getting malware onto computers is phishing people and then getting them to paste stuff into their Windows run or into their PowerShell or into their command prompt. And as an analyst, you're going to see these sorts of commands and you're going to need to understand how they try to execute fileless malware so that you can understand where to look on the machine and clean it up. Being an analyst isn't as simple as just swiping left and right like you're on Tinder between false and true positives. And you don't just re-image every single machine every time something happens. You actually have to investigate. So for that, you need to understand these attackers' techniques. Okay, that's pretty much what you need to know. But now let's talk about the actual reality of cyber. Even if you live in the US, you're probably not going to get a 6-figure salary for a while. Cyber is currently a trend. It's the most popular it's ever been. It's completely overhyped. A lot of developers came over from tech where they realized that being a software developer is a lot harder nowadays because the competition is massive, and then there's also the AI integration, and a lot of the more unskilled positions like being a web developer took a big hit. So people tried to gravitate to another technical field, and they found cybersecurity. And because it was way less oversaturated and it was easier to get a job in, people started moving to cyber. On top of that, when companies saw that more people were getting into cyber, they started making courses and certifications and certificates so that they can get your money, because that's what companies are interested in. Money. The YouTubers were hyping up cyber so that they can get more views on their videos, and then the companies started sponsoring those same YouTubers so that they can promote the courses and certificates so that they can also make money. So at the end of the day, cybersec just got completely overhyped because of capitalism. So now here's the stuff that you actually need to hear. If you want to get a job in cyber, you have to actually be pretty good. If you want to get a decent job, you can be one of those people that has been working at help desk for like 5 years straight and can't land a cyber job, or he's been working an entry-level position for 3 years and he can't find a better job and he's unhappy with his salary. That's not really hard to do. But if you want an actual decent job, and I don't just mean decent paying, but actual enjoyable job, then you're going to have to be pretty qualified. You have to spend a lot of your time learning even after you get your job. I would recommend a computer science degree if you don't have one already, and you should just be focused on constantly learning and actually becoming better. There's people that say that cyber isn't really a technical field and that all you need to get a job is like a certification or two. That's just simply not the case. It is a technical field. It's a very technical field. Yeah, there's a few more non-technical roles, but I don't think people look at GRC when they talk about cybersecurity. Also, there's this hype around hacking where everybody thinks they want to be a pentester. You cannot make that decision until you've done hundreds of CTFs, because you don't even know what being a pentester means. Like, yeah, you might have seen a video on it, you might have looked up what it means, but you're not going to understand what a pentester actually does until you do hundreds and hundreds of CTFs. And then one day you decide, wow, I actually really enjoy this and I want to make this my job. So when I hear questions like, how can I become a pentester in 3 months? I just cringe really hard, especially if that person is a complete beginner. So when you get into cyber, keep in mind the job that you're going to end with is probably not the job that you're going to try to start off with. So if you really want to get into hacking, you might just end up in blue teaming and then might even like it. Cyber is currently not that easy to get into. So thinking that you can get an easy job is just not very accurate. It takes quite a lot of time and effort. Another thing is that people just want a bunch of checklists that they can go over so that they can get their job. The things that I mentioned are for the sake of learning, not as a checklist. These are general guides of what you should orient yourself towards so that you can learn useful stuff and actually become good. Because if you really think of it, you probably don't have a job because you don't deserve a job. Companies provide society with goods that they decide to pay for, and in turn the company gets money. The company pays useful people that are able to accomplish those goals in order to eventually benefit society, and then gives the workers a chunk of the money that they generate the company. So now think of it this way. From your perspective, you just want a bunch of convenient money, you want to do a bunch of checklists and then eventually apply and get a job and then do the bare minimum and get a bunch of money. But what use does the company have for you? If you're not a very capable, versatile, skilled person that can deal with a lot of situations, that's reliable, that's very knowledgeable and actually skilled in practice and can actually get stuff done confidently and properly, why does a company need you? Especially when there's so many other people applying as well. When you're doing these things, it's not just to speedrun a job, it's to actually learn and genuinely be good. Overall, I would say cyber is very overhyped, and currently it is just a trend. If you genuinely have a passion for it, then absolutely go for it and keep going. Doesn't matter what field, it doesn't matter if you saw something that you think was interesting, but you are too scared to get into it because you thought it might be too complicated. Whatever it might be, just pursue it and try to learn and actually enjoy and have passion for it. Don't just do the bare minimum expecting a job. And if you are into it, then, oh man, it's going to be so enjoyable for you. You're going to actually enjoy learning. You're going to progress a lot faster than other people. You're going to end up in mid to senior positions eventually, and you're not just going to be stuck in entry or at help desk. So I would 100% recommend just pursuing your passion and actually grinding it out. If you like doing CTFs, keep doing those. Don't obsess if you're going to get a pentesting job out of them or not. Just do them out of enjoyment and get good at what you do. If you enjoy maldev or even something like cheating in games or creating cheats for games, try that. Learn lower level programming, get really good at what you do, understand anti-cheats, understand kernel level operations, and how the operating system actually works. Make more and more advanced cheats until you actually get really good at what you do. And then you might even get a job out of it in a related field, if not precisely that one. If you're not particularly intelligent, you're not creative in any way with your approaches, you're too lazy to do research, and you're not able to independently learn, cyber is going to be very bad for you. On YouTube and Discord, I see a lot of people asking some very generic questions that they can find the answer to in 5 to 10 seconds, but they decide to ask for human interaction for it instead of immediately finding the answer themselves, and I don't really understand that. The general concept of cyber is just lots and lots of research, individual research and interest. You can't rely on other people or expect someone to hold your hand through the entire journey. This is mostly going to be a solo mission. We're going to do most things by yourself, and you're going to learn by yourself, and you have to get comfortable with that. The level of discernment and critical thinking is also extremely important. You can't have other people thinking for you all the time. You need to be able to make really important decisions and to do lots of research by yourself. Finding ways to get a one-up on other people that are also applying. Stuff like lying about experience, getting creative with projects that other people aren't doing. Those sorts of things are not going to be taught to you, and you need to be able to make them work in case you need them. You need to be independent. I don't know. I hope this video helped a bunch of people. I don't expect it to do too well in terms of views, but a bunch of people need to hear that.